Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean, some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Shimmy, shimmy, Cocoa Puff, shimmy, shimmy. All right. We're here. Finally. Okay, I'll start officially. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I am here with my long-awaited first soul sister who should have been on this podcast in like episode 1, 2, or 3, but here she is on episode 61. I know. My dear friend,
7.
Brittany.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. So we have been talking about this forever. Like
Forever.
We've been friends. What did we figure out? 7, 8 years now?
I don't know.
Something ridiculous like that. We met at a gym, of course. Obviously the only place I ever go and meet people. And we'll get into that story. But we've been friends and we've talked about our dreams and our things. And so you've known about this podcast long before it was ever born. And so you were certainly one of those people like, oh, I want you on here. And we had so many things that we could talk about. And even just a couple weeks ago, I said, Brittany should be on here because we did a podcast with Jamie and Kevin, who are my coaches, who you just went to Mexico with. And so if you haven't watched that episode with Jamie and Kevin, go back. She was just there in Mexico. And so I brought you up and I was like, she hasn't been on the podcast yet. And so the announcement episode that I have been teasing for literally months is coming next week. Hold me to that. Knock on wood. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, like I can record another solo episode. I can power through this. And it's a Friday night. And I don't know, randomly, I was just like, I'm going to text Brittany and just see what she's up to and see if she wants to sit down and record a podcast. And here she is, like 30 minutes later.
This is going to be great or a really bad decision. We're going to find out real shortly here.
Well, it was so funny because when I said something to you a couple weeks ago, we're like, we're just going to trust in divine timing. And apparently that is a random Friday night when we have literally nothing planned. I just said, hey, would you maybe want to come over and record an episode on how to support your girl when she's going through a mess?
Yeah.
Because you have been that for me and
vice versa. We
yeah.
took turns being the ringmaster of our circles.
We sure did.
I'm currently the ringmaster. We won't share all those details today. We'll save some for later.
That'll be a part 2. But yeah, so going back to how we originally met was, like I said, at the gym. And there was an event at the gym where I was doing something like nutrition wise. And I think that's how we became friends on Facebook.
Yeah. I joined a Facebook group.
Yes. And then you started seeing things that I was posting because I believe that was right after my father-in-law passed. And so that was my huge catalyst to my awakening. And I'm seeing all these signs and cardinals and all of these things. And so I started writing about that. And then you reached out.
I did, because my catalyst was a year before when I lost my brother-in-law. And so a lot of the things that you were posting had to do with, like you said, the cardinals, the signs, how much we miss somebody. And I'm like, that is speaking to my soul. We have to meet.
Yeah.
So
what we did, it was
reached out.
The coolest thing, because it's just like, hey, I should have pulled up that message to read it on here. But yeah, I think that was in 2017. I think it was that summer or fall maybe. And I was working at a private practice at that time, and she came to meet me at the office. So I remember like sitting in these chairs and we're just sharing this story, and
here we are,
kind of been besties ever since. And so
and all our craziness.
Yeah.
MS.
And it's really wild to think how much life has happened since then.
Babies.
Babies.
Both of us had another baby.
Yeah. We sure did.
We sure did. Transitioned gyms. Launching new businesses.
Yes.
Holy crap. This girl, let me tell you, I can't tell you how many times I probably sat in front of her and cried as I was trying to escape corporate America. So thanks for just being that space and continuing to nudge.
And I'm over here like, I'm just the wing it girl. So you'll figure it out. I mean, look at me. I've got this figured out.
And eventually every entrepreneur is like that though. But you and I have found a way to balance each other. You have really great strengths in some areas that I'm like, Tami, I can't do this. Yes. And then there's things you've reached out to me on where you're like, what is this about?
Oh, yeah. Like you definitely have a very grounded business approach. And I'm like, girl, I need some of that. Whereas I think you needed some of my, you just got to go for this. You got to trust your intuition. And so it has been a really cool balance. Like every coffee date or lunch date, we've been able to do that for each other.
Yeah.
So
finding your people is so important in the process.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and it's coming back to really a huge foundation of this podcast is following your intuition. And that was what you did. Seeing my post, something resonating, and you know what? I need to reach out to her. I need to connect with her. I don't know why. The universe is like, girl, I know why. Get over there, message her. Like, I need to connect with her. You two are supposed to help each other through life.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah. And I will never forget. And the reason that she holds such a special place in my heart was because you were the very first person that I spoke out loud to about my marriage and where I was with that. And I didn't know what to do with that. And I've shared on here openly that I think it was last week's podcast that our divorce was finalized a couple weeks ago. And I told you this years ago.
Correct.
Years ago.
Yeah, but it was so monumental for me too. It was your life and your moment. But I knew it was a sacred moment and that you felt safe enough to say that to me. I mean, I still remember getting a call from you that morning and being like, I have to talk to you. And I literally dropped everything, met you at a coffee shop. We sat outside and you just let it all out. And I was so proud of you for that moment, for feeling it, for saying the hard things. It's not an easy thing to do. And again, you need to find your people and you need to speak your truth. And eventually that's what helps bring you back into alignment with everything. But it's messy.
It's super messy. And you bring up a very key word that you hear a lot on this podcast as well is feeling safe. And if you don't have those friendships or those connections where you feel safe, and I think especially as women, we want to put on those masks, right? That everything's fine. Everything's fine. We know what fine means. And you see it on Facebook and there's all of these private mom groups and you see these messages and they're posting anonymously because they don't want people to know that they're struggling in their marriage, that they're frustrated with their kids or that they hate their body or whatever. And it's like, why are we carrying around so much shame around what apparently is very normal? Because there's so many women posting that and sharing that. So it's so refreshing to have these kind of friendships where I can tell this woman literally she knows about everything. Yeah, you do.
You do as well. We'll take it to the grave.
Without any judgment, without any fear that you're going to use it against me someday. Because we all had friendships like that too, where it's you thought you were like, and you could be open and you could share yourself vulnerably and authentically. And then, guess not. I guess that was going to be used against me. And that's hard because that's, I think, why we feel so guarded in our friendships and our connections is because you don't know.
Right. And I think that's the hard thing is that one thing I have found in my own story is that what comes first? You want to find those relationships and those people that will be your safe space, be authentic, be vulnerable with you as much as you are them. But you don't find those people until you take that leap first.
Right.
And I mean, again, it was you putting that out on Facebook. And lately I've been biting the bullet and putting my own stories and thoughts out on Instagram. And it, as I've told people, it feels cringy to some degree And that's a discomfort and emotion that I need to work through because clearly there's something triggering there for me.
Well, and I love that you are seeing that, ooh, this is a me thing. This is bringing up something for me, and I may be projecting that out onto other people. So I need to sit with that.
Correct. And yet everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, those that have reached out to me and have had something to say have been so lovely and have been grateful because, again, they are sitting with it.
Yep.
But they're not in the space yet or haven't hit that growth yet where they are ready to say,
Yeah.
I'm ready to put this out there too.
Right. And some people have no desire to put it out there, and that's fine. And that's your path, and that's the way that you may process things. And no judgment there, just like there shouldn't be any judgment for those that want to process out loud, that need to process out loud, because we know that we're meant to help people through our experiences and through our stories. And so what good is it for me to be going through all of this and just keeping it in my journal when I know that, hey, what I'm going through could maybe help another woman feel seen?
Right.
Why wouldn't I want to do that? I love that you are doing that, because I've been there, and I've been sharing my story for, oh my gosh, almost 10 years in October. Because that was when I started the Confessions of the Detoxing Dietitian, because I had started this 30-day system thing, and I had so much guilt and shame around that, because as a dietitian, you're not supposed to do cleanses and detoxes and stuff. And so that literally, Confessions of a Detoxing Dietitian. I am obviously sinning because I'm trying to take care of myself, but that was my own projections. I'm like, if I call it out, then people can't turn around on me. So I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah, use your power to your advantage.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of a similar thing in that I went to school. I got my master's in counseling. I was licensed to help people, and yet found myself in therapy, found myself with a coach. There's a lot of crap that we can't process on our own.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Going back to your question, why do we have shame with that, and why do we sit with it alone?
Yeah.
I think we all find our pace at a different time, but we ultimately need to find acceptance within ourselves first. And that's the hardest thing to do, because who wants to look inward and sit with all those gross, icky feelings and have to process them? Right. It's easier to shove them down. It's easier to ignore them when we are bombarded with social media that is showing people living the glamorous life, or everything seems beautiful, work is going well.
And we are here.
We don't feel like we're
to show you the mess behind the scenes.
Oh, yes.
And that's part of what my mission has felt like, is to show the behind the scenes, and that not every day is rainbows and roses. And so you could hop on my stories and see me crying on there someday. Like, I remember Andrea, my branding manager at the time, she would check my stories before we had meetings, because she needed to know what emotional state I was in. What part of the roller coaster was I on? Because I would share it in my stories.
Yes.
And because I want people to see and understand and start to accept that every emotion is okay, and here's how to move through them. There's going to be days where I don't want to get out of bed either, but here's how I still show up, and here's how I still support myself.
Yes.
But I also want to be able to show the joy and the happiness and all of those things unfiltered and not and unapologetic.
Because
because I think all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, it must be nice, or I'm like, I'll do the hand, like, no.
So let's talk about the feelings, though, because I love that you put it out there. I think it's great modeling behavior. It's something that I am trying to get comfortable with. Something I have learned more recently, though, is that not everybody has the language or the knowledge to identify their emotions. And that is something for somebody who can feel it and express it so freely. It's something I take for granted, and I don't think about. To me, I might view others as being closed off or not wanting to share. And the fact of the matter is maybe they do want to share, but they can't even pinpoint what it is they're feeling. And so, again, I think having more people out there that are willing to talk about it, willing to normalize it, because in our society, yes, there's a movement to put especially mental health out there.
Yeah.
We're still not in a place where it is globally accepted.
Right.
And there are definitely gender stereotypes around that as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think last week I was talking about the feelings wheel, and how we are only used to the 5 in the inner circle, like happy, mad, sad, when really there's all these outer ones like, whoa, whoa, but that's been the work, is how
Right.
can I feel safe to feel all of these and to express all of these,
Mhm.
the whole range, from rage and extreme anger to extreme happiness and joy and pleasure and all of those things. And so it takes a lot of work to do that, because I think, again, going back to childhood, a lot of us were conditioned. You don't want to be the kid who throws the tantrum all the time when you have anger, or again, me being the hot dog and sharing too much excitement and too much joy. Like, well, geez, let me just bottle that up.
There's another way we balance each other. I'm the anger kid that had way too much emotion.
That's
it happens.
interesting. You?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, temper tantrums
you have
for sure.
masked that as the good girl real well.
I think it has shifted though.
Oh,
I mean, Sid and I were talking about this in that I think even into my 20s, I carried a lot of anger.
Yeah.
I don't think it is until we have certain moments in our life that make us reset and look back at where we're at and where we want to be that we recalibrate.
Yeah.
And so I learned to let all the anger go. Not that I don't get angry. I mean, come on. I have kids. And a dog.
It shows up.
It shows up sometimes. I'm in HR. There's a whole nother side. We all still have those emotions, but yeah, I think we have big life events that help transition us from where we feel a lot of things. And I think we also learn how to appropriately regulate ourselves.
Yeah.
Or find outlets where to your point, we need to learn to let ourselves feel it so that it can move through us and out of us faster.
Right. Because I think as women, we are oftentimes that boiling pot of water. It has been on the stove, a low simmer for who knows how long. And then it's boiling, it's boiling, it's boiling. And eventually, because we don't have those outlets, because we're not allowing ourselves to open up and talk to that friend or go to therapy or whatever it is, eventually that pot boils over. And now we feel like we're going through a midlife crisis, when really I see that as a midlife unraveling. Like, oh, no. Now you're just waking up and you're so effing fed up.
Yep.
It feels like a crisis, but really it's just like enough with this people pleasing, enough with this mask, enough with this good girl, enough with this whatever. And it's just like busting through. I just need to be my authentic self. And so when I hear that, like, oh, your midlife crisis, like, no, I'm just remembering, like, hold up. Who is running this circus and who is directing this play? It wasn't me. But then you step forward as the main character, and then you realize there's people in the audience that are like, boo.
I'm like, I don't know. Some days I'm the main character.
Well, yeah. I mean, now, and it's, I deserve to be the main character in my own life. I don't want
100%.
certain parts of me playing these roles, and I'm sitting watching this unfold. Like, what are you doing? Why would you say that, Tami? Why are you doing that, Tami? And I'm watching this unfold. And at some point we just need to say, cut.
Right.
Be the director and be like, cut, stop, pause,
and reset.
Take your intermission, take all the time you need to heal, to do the work. And then think about, how do you want Act 2 to go? And I feel like that's where I'm at in my life. And it feels like you're in that space too, of like figuring out, what do I want this next phase of my life to look like? Who are the characters I want in this play? What do I want her to be doing in her life? What is going to bring her joy? What is her occupation going to be? Is it something that, fills her up and has purpose? Or how does she want to show up for her kids? Like, you get to decide that. It's like you get to rewrite the script.
100%. And I was thinking about that on the way over here. I was thinking about corporate America and that kind of being where my story started with you and what my definition of success then was, where I was making great money. I wore the fancy clothes. I worked my way up the ladder, but I was miserable. I got home. I was not a good mom. I was not a good wife. I mean, every Saturday or Sunday, I would go to see my mom. She would ask me what's wrong. That's not the way to live.
Right.
And so in working with Jamie and Kevin, as you mentioned earlier, how do we build a life that supports what we really want out of it? Yeah. Too often we get stuck in let's work to live instead of live to work. So reverse that.
I know what she meant.
You know the saying. reverse that. But yes, so thinking about the things that bring you joy, and this was probably my hardest lesson in therapy. And one of the things my therapist said to me, and this is after we had been working together, she stopped me and she goes, Brittany, all I hear you talk about is how you're caring about other people, how you are nurturing other people, you being concerned about what other people think, you carrying the burden of what their emotions or responses might be. None of that is your job. And so her question or her homework to me was, I want to know who Brittany is when you are not a caregiver.
Ooh.
Oh, the actual like, do you know how hard it is to be called out on that? That is something that is true to my core. Again, mind you, I went to school for counseling.
Yeah.
I genuinely care about people and their stories.
Right.
But yeah, what it didn't hit on is what makes me feel whole at the end of the day.
Right.
What are the things that bring me joy?
Yeah.
And yes, while sometimes caring for people brings me joy, I left out all the other things like having a cup of coffee and reading a book by myself. I really value my alone time.
Yep.
You can't do that when you're caring for other people.
Right. Yeah. I think I had mentioned this on last week's podcast about one of the coaching clients I was working with, in that she was so willing to help her husband out in a situation, but flip it. The exact same scenario flipped. And she's like, oh, hell no. Nope. Can't do that. Like, whoa, your inner child is like, yo. Because I mean, I think how isolating that is. The analogy I expressed in that episode into her was, so you basically cornered taking your inner child out. All the other kids are on the other side of the classroom getting all the help and love and support that they need, but not you. You don't deserve that. You're not worthy of that. I got to figure it out myself. And meanwhile, your inner child just sitting over there feeling
damn
lonely as hell. When really it's like, why don't I deserve that? And so, yeah, to throw a question like that on you, that hits on many, many levels, because it's like, whoa, who am I now? And also, why did that pattern start going all the way back? When we go through the work that you and I have been doing, I have a podcast, wanting to feel seen and wanting to feel heard. Oh, why don't you start a podcast, Tami? So look at how I'm reparenting now my inner child. But before, I was doing that same thing. I was giving all of that to other people and not doing it for myself. And that is the worst form of abandonment.
It so is. And one of the hardest pieces, I mean, one, acknowledging the abandonment, but two, it's deeper than that. Why do we feel like we aren't worthy of those things?
Right.
And harder yet, who is the one that projected that onto you? Because oftentimes it's not, again, Tami just mentioned having to go back through your memories and having to go back in time and think about what moment in time trained you to be this way.
Right.
And in sitting with my own life lessons, they were often things that I projected on myself based on my perception of life.
Yes.
There was nothing that anybody else had done. And this still happens in everyday relationships. We come with our own set of experiences and we have perceptions of how things
And
are.
expectations.
Oh, that's a big one.
But you're right. And I look back at my childhood stuff too, and I've expressed that there wasn't necessarily direct things that happened to me. It was the stories I created. When people would comment about my older sister and how tall and skinny she was, they never said, well, look at you, you short, fat, lazy, whatever. They never said anything like that. It was just, oh, you're so tall and skinny. And I was standing right next to her. And so I heard, well, you don't look like her, so you're not good enough.
Oh, same thing. Those damn older sisters. We love them.
Yeah, because you have...
I have two older sisters, but
three.
So, well, I have three sisters. One's younger. But I mean, that was part of the thing I needed to work through was I would cry anytime I heard the word disappointment in therapy. And we had to go back through and think about this. And she's like, what sparks that for you? And I'm like, honestly, a lot of it has to do with following a sister that excelled at a lot of things, and she made it seem easy and natural. I don't know if it was for her or not.
Right. She might have felt an intense amount of pressure.
She might have. And I'm sure she worked her ass off. And nobody ever said to me at any point in my life, can you do better?
Right.
But
your ego took that story and twisted it and
totally
ran with it.
Because guess what? I worked hard and still couldn't make it to the level that she was at. And people complimented her. And I, again, coming up in school behind her, teachers used her work as examples. I felt the pressure that maybe they wanted me to be the same way, though they never communicated that to me. And the hardest thing that I've had to sit with, talk about continuing to project onto people. This is something I've never talked to her about.
Ooh.
So
Hey,
she
sis.
might be, she might listen to this. And I haven't said anything because I go, oh my God, what if that hurts her?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hurt her either. I don't think she's done anything wrong, but it's a part of my story.
I'm going to pause you there because I feel like we often do this, is
Mm-hmm.
we withhold communicating because what if this hurts them? What if it heals them? What if it's a healing moment? What if it doesn't hurt and that it actually helps heal? Maybe it does hurt at first, but maybe the end goal is that it helps heal.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so afraid of hurting that we never actually allow ourselves to heal.
Right. And interestingly enough, I mean, kind of going down that same path, I just shared a recent personal experience with my sisters, and she's the one that cried on the phone and said, I'm sorry I didn't know. I would have loved to have supported you. And that was another opportunity that I felt like I robbed from her, where I desperately needed the support.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to burden anyone. And I felt shame about it as well. I have since worked through that. But how many of us do that? How many of us withhold things from the people that are meant to build us up, that want to support us? I mean, these are all things that we live and learn and try and do better.
Well, and I think too, there comes a sense of bravery in that, and that I need to speak my truth, and whoever's there to support me, I'm going to find out who those people are.
Right.
And I need to be okay with maybe finding out that some of the people I thought would be there aren't.
Right.
But that means it's going to create more space for the people who are.
Right.
But that is hard. But you're right. We oftentimes deny someone of giving us the gift of being there to support us because you want to give that. You want to be that person for people all day long. You got a freaking degree to do that for people. But God forbid you allow someone to give you that same gift that you know feels good to give. But we won't let people give it to us.
We don't. And we don't create that space. And sometimes that creates conflict. Right. And we need to also break the story that it's noble and that it's strong for us to keep it into ourselves.
Yeah.
And we just keep showing up every day. I mean, do you need to show up every day? Absolutely. But you can show up a hot mess. You can be crying.
I do that 99.9% of the time.
Just, do it. We don't need to know it all. We don't need to be it all for somebody. We just need to be it all for ourselves.
Right. Well, and it's been interesting. The more that I've kind of stepped into this, just here's how I'm doing today. Here's how I'm feeling today. It's interesting how many times that's when people reach out. That's when people want to connect because there's something like, oh, me too. Like that, me too. Like they just need to feel that connection that they're not alone.
Right.
And you don't want to say like misery loves company, but it's just, no, it's understanding. And there's someone else who gets it.
It's community.
It's community, and that I'm not alone. And it feels like we need more and more women to speak up and share what's really going on without judgment, without criticism, and know that there are safe spaces for you to do that.
And make the space for our men to do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a hard one for a lot of women as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you really do think about it, I've had you like in my in my pocket, in my corner on just a phone call, a text away for the last 7-8 years. But I know my ex didn't have that. And that's, you take your ownership and find your people. But you're right, that isn't necessarily out there for men. And I remember the episode I did with Andrew way back, I think it was like in November, about masculine and feminine energy. He was talking about building a community of men, be able to have these conversations and this kind of support, because it's usually like, hey, talking about sports or that kind of stuff. And they don't necessarily have that outlet, but you also have to take initiative to create it as well.
Right.
Or, be willing to be more vulnerable. But I think men are still caught in that's a weakness thing. And I think women do too, to a certain extent.
Right. Again, do we show up in a way that allows them to be vulnerable? Right. Are we ready for that?
Yeah.
Because it's a different vibe.
It is.
And we haven't been taught by society to fully embrace that or accept that either.
Right. Yeah.
So we all have our shit to work on.
We definitely do. We definitely do. And well, one thing too, and this is going back to how we originally connected, was the spiritual aspect and finding that tribe and trusting your intuition when you feel like you want to reach out to somebody, because I mean, that was vulnerable for me to be sharing those things, but I didn't care at that time. I just wanted to share what was going on, but it was also a very sensitive subject because my father-in-law took his life. But I'm like, I want to show another side of that because of the way he passed. Like, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about him, or we can't honor that. And I was like, no.
Right.
You think of it as someone who passed away from cancer. Like, we can't honor that anniversary. We can't talk about that when it's, National Cancer Month or something. But it was such an interesting thing. And I just like, no, I want to talk about this. I want to normalize this. And it was just interesting how that like opened up something for you. And then it allowed both of us to kind of step into our spirituality and our gifts. And again, finding someone you feel safe to express that with, because it's been interesting how many people have reached out to me that were like closet spiritual people, because they're like, oh my gosh, you see angel numbers too. And even now, going through this whole thing of spirituality versus religion, and how many people are stuck in this weird paradigm as well. And
just be.
Right. Just exactly. Just be.
I mean, you want to talk angel numbers for a second?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Speaking of which, I got them all over.
I know you do. But I was thinking when we started this off and you're like, this is episode 61.
Yeah.
So 6 and 1 are 7. Yeah. It's May 2nd, which makes 7. And it's 2025, which if you take the last 2, it's 7. So 777. It's a lucky day.
Boom.
Mic drop. You're welcome, my friend.
And it's interesting. I actually just saw something kind of diving in deeper about what angel numbers are, because I always took that as
yes.
Oh, I sent that to you, didn't I?
You did.
Of course I did. But
whole nother side of us.
Here we go. But I didn't know what they were at first. they just started coming at me, and I was like, okay, this is odd to be seeing repeating numbers that often. And at one point, I started to look them up, like, well, what does 222 mean? What does 111 mean? And there was always something that resonated. And for me, it always felt like little nudges or little winks or little encouragements from God to be like, hey, keep going. You're on the right path. We got you. We support you. And for me, that was something to hold on to. Right. When it felt like the crisis, the unraveling was happening, and it feels really scary because you want to try to keep it all together and hold it all in, but you can't. Like, it's like slipping through. It's like noodles, and you're trying to hold on to all of this. That's a really funny visual.
Only for you.
But that kept me like, okay, I don't know what is happening. This is like freaking me out. This is going to feel like it's creating change, because you had mentioned early on being able to figure out who you are or what it is that we want. And I think going back even further is, I think sometimes we're afraid to ask the question, because what if it doesn't match your current reality?
Right.
And so I think a lot of women and men too, like, what is it that you really want? Because if you get really honest with yourself, it's going to make you take a real hard look at your current life. And when it doesn't match, that's when it's like, oh shit, because now you can't ignore it anymore. I mean, you can, then you become that boiling pot of water, and it's like, well, what is it going to take? Or that tower moment that I've talked about a million times on here. But I think finding those little things, whether that's, in the friendship, that's someone you can call to anchor you, or it is those little angel numbers or the signs, to just keep trusting, like, oh, okay, it feels like my world is falling apart, but apparently
there's
I'm
hope.
being supported. And you get all kinds of cool signs and nudges and your experience as well, and kind of what sent you on your journey.
Yeah. And it's something, I mean, you talked about not sharing it openly. There's a lot that I haven't shared openly. I think when my brother-in-law passed, that came a year after my last grandparent passed. And it was life altering, but having feelings. Crazy thing. Leading up to an incident where he landed in the hospital. So my brother-in-law had a rare blood disease. The seatbelt light kept coming on in my car every time I got in it. And it was one of those things where I just let it go. I ignored it. I trusted my tuition because I'm like, this has nothing to do with the car. I didn't know what it was about. And somebody asked me, well, why didn't you go get it fixed? Why didn't you just go have it checked out? I'm like, I don't know, because they're not going to find anything. And then after he was found in his car on the side of the road and med flighted to Mayo Clinic, it stopped. So I do believe that energy is out there. I do believe that when we are about to go through something that's going to be really hard, I think there are signs in different ways that they show up. For me, I get feelings as well, really intense feelings, and I sit with them. I know they're not my own to carry, which is hard for a lot of people to understand, and that's okay.
Yeah. Zoe and I were talking earlier today. She's been on here. She's one of my other spiritual soul friends. We joke that she doesn't feel her feelings. She allows me to do that for her. So if I'm just like randomly crying one day and I was like, Zoe, Zoe, she just found out some really exciting news, but was just kind of like, yeah. And I'm over here like, she's like, thank you for the enthusiasm. And I was like, girl, so apparently I feel safe not only in mine, but in expressing the full range for others as well. But
that's amazing.
But you're right. When I realized that of how many people's emotions I take on, because there are times where it's like, I don't know where this came from. Like nothing happened, but all of a sudden I am sad and I need to cry, or I am angry, or I am whatever. And it's like, whoa. And now I kind of have to go through that process of thinking, does this make sense in my real life and what just happened? And if no, then I'm like, well, this ain't mine.
Right.
So that's why I saged before I came here. And she's like, what does that smell? Does it smell like sage?
Well, and as you're talking about this, I'm like, God forbid some people see us out in public together and the way we feed off of each other.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, when I originally reached out to her about coming on to do this, it was again about how do you support women through their mess? Because there are a lot of do's and don'ts. There are times when you may just need me to hold space for you and to just listen. Right. And there's other times where you might need that, like, girl, what are you doing? You know? And you've done the same for me.
Right.
To be able to give me another perspective, or again, just to know when to hold space, or to listen to that nudge when you feel like you need to check in, or to take that extra time to, you know what, we're grabbing coffee, we're grabbing lunch. No ifs, ands, buts about it. I'm bringing over food and like, okay.
Yeah. We're just going to sit together.
Right. Because it would be very easy as women to be like, no, I'm okay. I'm fine. We don't want to be a burden.
No. But so there's that piece, holding space, being emotionally supportive. And then there's the honesty piece. And you mentioned it with the perspective. I mean, we've gotten to the point where we don't even need to ask each other about it. We just, I'm just going to tell you how it is. I'll do it gently.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And sometimes it's like, what the fuck are you doing? But having that type of relationship and being able to be honest is so crucial. And there's other women that maybe I don't know, or men for that matter, where being an outsider, yes, you come with a different lens, you come with a different perspective, and I will ask permission.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something, or can I provide you a different perspective or different insight? Is this going to be upsetting to you? Is it going to trigger you?
Yeah. And even to start off by, hey, do you have the energy, the capacity right now?
Right.
Because I've got something I need to share, but I also want to make sure that you're in a space to be able to do that. And there are times where it's like, oh man, like
I can receive it.
Right. Like I can hold space for you, but I'm not in a place where I can take this on right now. And so I've had a friend, I think Jennifer was on the podcast a while back as well. And she was so great at that. Like, this is what I've got capacity for. And I was like, cool. Like, those boundaries can be really helpful, but it's good to check in.
Yes.
To be like, I need to know where you're at before I come and like dump all my stuff onto you and expect you to help me sift through it when you're over here digging through your own.
Yes. Well, and one of the things that I have come to really admire about you too is that there might be something that I say to you, and then there'll be silence between us for a while.
Yeah.
And you'll come back and you'll say, you'll always apologize for it, which I wish you wouldn't. Yeah. Women apologize too much.
I'm working on that one.
But I understand why, because not everybody's okay with silence. But you'll come back and you'll say, I'm sorry, what you said or what you did really triggered me. Oh, that's right. And I needed to work through it. And not everybody can sit with that, and not everybody can be honest with it. But also, in hearing that, everybody can take that. For me, I respect that you do it. I don't know as though everybody would respect somebody pulling away. And I can even attest to this in my own relationship. I will verbalize, I need to step away from this. Yeah. And some people...
I'm just, peace out. I'm not going to tell you, I'm just gone.
I mean, yeah, it's ghosting. It's a real thing, but yours is different. Yours is different. But there are times where I have said to somebody, I need to step away from this.
Oh, yeah.
And they get upset about it. And they think it's a form of rejection. Mm-hmm. And I have to come back, and sometimes they're in the right space and sometimes they're not to hear it. But no, I'm not walking away from you.
Right.
I'm walking away from a conversation that's no longer constructive. Or I just need space to process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's about me. It's not about this other person.
Right. Because I know, like, if I'm in a heightened state or if I'm triggered, nothing that comes out is going to be coming from my heart space. It's probably going to be coming from my ego, and it's not going to be received well. Right. And that's when we say things that we regret. That's when, we end up hurting people, when really it's a sign of respect to be like, I need some space because I need to think through this, feel my way through this, and then I can come back with what I actually, my rational adult self, my wise self wants to say and what it wants to do. Otherwise, I am reacting from my wounded self and from my ego. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Like, when you're not able to speak that same language, it's the whole, you can't speak butterfly language, caterpillar people. You don't have...
What kind of people?
You listen to my podcast? I do. If you are a regular listener, you know I have said that quote a million times, Brittany.
I feel like you said it really fast, though.
I did.
It's just me.
Well played. I'm just kidding. You can't speak butterfly language to caterpillar people.
Okay. I understood it that time, folks.
Just shit. And it's not to say that it's better or worse, right? It's just like you haven't gone through that metamorphosis. Maybe you don't understand the thought process, because I had a situation over the summer where I was very, very triggered. And I knew if I respond right now, nothing good is going to come of this.
Right.
And I tried to step away. I tried to set that boundary, and that person just kept coming at me. It was almost like I started to feel like I was a kid on the playground being bullied and backed into a corner. And that's what I felt like. And I was just like, no, I'm leaving the playground. When I'm ready to come back and have this conversation, then we can have this conversation. But neither one of us, this is not the energy or the environment to be having this discussion, not in this energy. Uh-huh. And I've gotten to a place now where I can do that, because before, like, I'm a Sagittarius, we're both fire signs. Like, you want to, like, a tantrum you talked about? Oh yeah, it's there.
I was going to say, I'm kind of on the opposite end of that, where for me, it wasn't always an issue for me to walk away. But if somebody else wanted to walk away, it was what I needed to learn was to let them walk away.
Yes. Yeah.
So that they could have their moment to regroup.
Oh yeah.
I'm not good about that.
That would absolutely trigger my abandonment wound too. Like, oh, okay, now they're gone. Now they're leaving forever. And yeah.
Well, for me, it's more like, hey, I'm not done with this conversation. I'm not done with you yet.
So you were the bully in the playground.
Guilty. Fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I can now see when I go silent, I do need to process that, and I can respect that and understand that. But to get to a place where I can say, hey, in that moment or shortly thereafter, to be like, something triggered me. I need some time and space. But it's like I didn't even realize that that's what was happening.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like, whoa, it has been a while. Why is that? Like, That's why.
Can't always recognize it, and that's okay.
But I definitely, when we talk about attachment styles, I am all over the board. I can be anxious. I can be avoidant. Like I'm a little hodgepodge of. And it's fascinating because there are certainly times where, for me, my ego, it feels safer to avoid.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation. It's hard to speak my truth because I didn't want to make you feel uncomfortable or you feel bad, because nothing that you told me was a reflection of me or your relationship or you or anything. It was just, it triggered something within me, and I knew it had nothing to do with you, but it created some distance, and I had to sit with why. But I knew it has nothing to do with you. This is just triggering something deeper within me.
Right.
But I sometimes need that time and space to do that, but it's communicating that ahead of time, which is hard.
Yeah.
Because people will take offense to that. And I can think of a million situations over this last year where I might have been quiet, but it was, I know it was for a reason.
Right.
I know it was because I was triggered by something that was said or did and didn't know how to respond, didn't know how to come back and speak my truth about it.
Yeah.
So it was just easier to be like, which I now know only makes things worse.
Yes. And I'm all about the yes and, because things don't necessarily need to be mutually exclusive.
No.
But in those moments, sometimes it's the catalyst to truly kick out the people in our lives that are not meant to be there any longer. So,
yes. Yeah. Very much so. So if you think about in other ways how women can support each other through their mess, like what is another thing that comes up? Or like maybe it's even what not to do. we did find some good
we did. And I was joking with Tami, one of the things that I said to her during one of our messy lunch conversations, she was the ringmaster of her circus. And I'm like, I don't want your life or your circus.
I will never forget that. And I was like, that's fair. That's fair.
Oh my, how the tables have turned. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend saying that to your friend.
I was like, that's great. Thanks for the support. No, but I mean, at that point, I needed to be able to laugh about it.
Oh,
so
we laugh a lot over these things.
That's what you were providing, was a little laughter. But
I mean, we touched on a lot of the things. I think sitting with yourself and identifying why you need space or the things that bring you joy, and encouraging women around you to do it, listening and being non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Holding space is a big one. One of the things that I have been trying to learn to do more is to hold space without inserting myself.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when we are talking with somebody, we want to jump in and we want to help. And sometimes that's not our place to do it.
Yeah. Like the fixers.
Right.
Like my value is being able to help people through their stuff. And actually, I think Arya has been the one that's helped me with that. Is like, sometimes I just need you to listen.
Right.
I don't need you to come in and fix this. And I think as women, oftentimes it's men tend to be the fixers. And like, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen. And like, I don't know how to do that.
I just need you to hold me and rub my back and let me cry.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh my God, give me like a million to-do list things before I have to do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't also maybe feel comfortable sitting in emotion. And so anything to bypass yours and then to feel helpful and useful is to fix the problem, is to go right to that one. Really, I think as women in that kind of relationship, but also with your friendships, is I don't need you to fix me.
Right.
And that happened within going through the separation as well. There were certainly people that thought they were helping, and their way of helping was to try to fix me or fix this and then project their own stuff onto me about it. And I was like, no, that this is a you thing. And I can feel that projection, and I understand what you're trying to do, and that meeting their own need, because that's a childhood thing where they need to feel useful. They need to feel, and I could understand that and see that. I was like, oh, okay. So that helped me really let go of a lot of hurt.
Right.
For the people that I thought would be there that just didn't know how, or they thought they were, and it wasn't what I needed.
Right.
Because they were trying to fix, or because maybe they couldn't be there emotionally. Like I don't know how to help with this, so I'm just going to step back. And that felt like abandonment. That felt hard. Like, you're
Right.
not here to support me. And when really now it's like, maybe that was the best way they could have supported me, because if they didn't know how,
Right.
maybe just taking a step back and supporting from afar, maybe they're sending light and love and whatever, or just by not intervening was their way of helping.
Right. And I do believe that people do the best with what they know how
100%.
or how they know how. You touched on something else though, in that sometimes we aren't going to get it right.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think sometimes that's one of the best things to do is if you don't get it right, acknowledge it,
Acknowledge it.
but
Yep.
have also the courage to speak up.
Yep.
You're not always going to know if you're not doing the right thing. So you do have to have a foundation of trust or courage or bravery for somebody to say, hey, this didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
But then when it happens, acknowledge that it happened, acknowledge that you misstepped.
Yeah.
Apologize for it. It's okay.
Yeah.
If it's not right all the time. That's the messy part of life.
Yeah. And I think understanding this work and the way, I know everyone talks about this stuff differently. I think you even talk about it differently, but for me, it's, inner child and it's ego as the protector. When I see things as kind of my ego is separate and kind of saying these things or being the avoidant or whatever it is, I can speak to that differently. I can own that. When I felt triggered, my ego ghosted you. What I wish I could have done in that situation was to say, hey, but I can separate myself. And I've talked about this before, is sometimes it's helpful to name that, especially like when it comes to, an easy example is around food. Like if you were stressed or whatever, and you were emotionally binge eating or whatever it is, instead of beating yourself up, be like, I can't believe I did that again. I know better. I'm like, whoa. And maybe it's Betty like beating you up. But why did you feel the need to try to numb my emotions?
Right.
I understand that you didn't want me to have to feel that, but you need to let me feel that now. So it's almost like having a conversation with it. And so it's much, much easier for me to own when I mess up now, because I can see how my ego was trying to protect me, thinking I was maybe, protecting Aria or protecting someone else. From not telling them. And even when I think about telling the kids about divorce, I messed up on that one big time. And I was so mad at myself because that was my whole thing growing up, is no one really said what was going on. If there was arguments or whatever, it was always swept under the rug and everything seemed fine.
Right.
So my intuition is like, wait a second, I'm seeing one thing, I'm feeling another. And I did the same thing to my kids. It took me forever to be able to say the words. Yeah. But they're here in this apartment, like they know things are happening, but I couldn't say the words. And I'm thinking I'm protecting them. I know I was absolutely protecting my inner child.
Yeah.
And when I finally said that to them and gave them that clarity, I could feel the weight lifted off. For one, I validated Arya's intuition. Like, you were right. Because she's like, I knew. I'm like, and I said, like, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you directly and clearly, thinking I was protecting you.
Yeah.
When really it was because I was uncomfortable. And I didn't want to feel that.
Yeah.
But to see the way it shifted things for her, and even Arlo, like I felt, talk about like a sweet little moment, because he came here and he's thinking like, this is like this fun little bonus place to live.
Yeah.
And never really had that conversation. He'd ask questions like, why don't you live at home anymore? And like, well, some families, are like this, and this could be a whole episode. But there was one moment we were watching the movie Soul. Yeah. And at the end, they're like leaving the world and they were holding hands and then they let go. And he got really sad after that. And he was actually under this table. And I was like, buddy. So I crawled under here with him and we kind of made the connection that it was the sadness that mom and dad weren't able to hold hands anymore. And that there was that separation.
Right.
But I remember telling him very clearly that we weren't going to be living together again and that we were getting divorced. And that sweet little soul just cried. And he just cried and I cried with him. And it was this beautiful moment. But I thought like it was probably over a year where he would be acting out and have these big behaviors. And I talked about Hulk on here. I understood it because he was confused.
Right.
He's like, I have these emotions. I don't know what's going on in my world. I don't really know why I'm here.
Yeah.
And I never gave him a place to process that and to have that outlet. So I denied him of that same thing. But when I did, it was like, so the same thing like for women is just to be able to step into that space and just be clear and open and honest.
Right.
And just you feel that weight lifted.
And while it's a beautiful thing for the weight to be lifted, I mean, sitting next to you and feeling everything you're feeling right now, I'm like, God, don't hold on to guilt around that either.
I know.
Kids don't have the cognitive ability or language to be able to communicate exactly what they're thinking or feeling. They just haven't developed that yet. And so while we try and do all the right things as moms, we're going to misstep. We're not going to do it perfectly, but we do hold a lot of guilt. And I think women tend to be caregivers in general. We do that with a lot of our relationships. How many times do we misstep? And instead of taking the beautiful lesson out of it, we focus on all the things that went wrong. All the thing, I mean, shoot, the photo shoot I just did.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing. There was so much beauty in this underwater photo shoot that I did, and I focused on all the wrong things. And Jamie had to coach me through even before I would post it online. Why are those the things you're focusing on? Why are those the things that you're looking at? We do the same thing in life with our relationships.
That's so funny because I actually thought of this the beginning of this episode talking about shame. I was in Mexico, different retreat, and posted pictures, and I was in a bikini and I didn't post them for months because I had so much shame. I was projecting what I thought other people would think is like, oh, like super slutty or show off or whatever. And it was like, man, like in that moment, I felt empowered. I have worked hard to heal myself, to heal this body, to be in this. But yet when it came to putting it out there and sharing it, my ego wanted to shut that down with silence and shame in the worst way. And I was like, no, that is hard.
Crazy. Like, it makes my heart hurt for you and me because for me, posting the photos wasn't out of something of excitement. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, these are so cool, let me share them. It was done out of a challenge to myself. It was something that I feared and I found hard to do because I was so critical. And they're out there. I mean,
they're out there.
I did not sit with them for months. I posted them the same day I got them. But I mean, if anything, it just highlighted that, again, there's still areas of my life that I need to work on.
Absolutely.
Especially around like myself and image. But I'll keep rising to the challenge. The next day I signed up or responded to a model call for a boudoir shoot. So those ones likely will not be posted by me, maybe by the photographer, but
nice.
Again, challenge accepted. We're going to keep working on this.
Yes. Well, and that's what it was that finally got me to post those. Is I was at my daughter's dance recital and I saw these girls from 3 years old to seniors in high school and just the movement and the dance, like it was playful, it was fun, it was sexy, it was fierce, it was powerful, it was all these things, and they used their body. And I was like, why am I sitting over here with so much shame about my body when I am here celebrating every movement these women and these girls make? I would never want any of them to walk off the stage and feel the way that I do. And I was like, hell no. I got home that night and I posted them. Like,
go you.
Baby steps. Baby steps. But yeah, I think that's another way that we can support women is to continue to encourage you to rise and to continue to pour belief into you.
Right.
And to see where is there maybe some of those insecurities that it's like, but girl, like that's where your beauty is. That's where your power is. And to be able to have someone be that mirror for you and sometimes you can't see it. Right. I think that's another amazing. And that's, I mean, you've been that for me for, again, years.
Oh, ditto, my friend.
Yeah. I feel like just in this last 15 minutes, we uncovered probably 10 more topics we could dive into. So we'll have to have
has anybody like been able to follow this crazy path we've been on?
This is why I love these episodes. It's like you can't turn them off because you don't know what's coming next. Like there's no outline. There's no.
But yeah, so many.
Gotta hang with this crazy train over here. This very unscripted crazy train. That is us. That is our friendship. So, but what's very cool is what you're stepping into, what I'm stepping into. We're both kind of on this similar path. And what I also love about it is it doesn't feel like a competition thing. Let's collaborate. Let's work together. Like that feels so cool. As women, like we often get in that energy where it's like, oh, well, she's doing this or that, or I want to be, and it's not like that at all. We were immediately like, we've always kind of known that we were meant to work together and just how can we support each other on this kind of a similar mission, but with different messages, but also very similar. And it's a very cool thing.
It is. Our messaging is different, but I mean, think about this podcast. We talked about doing a joint podcast.
We did.
And it wasn't meant to be, but I'm like, yeah, go Tami, get it off the ground. And it's been phenomenal for you. And now, we're kind of in these different avenues of telling our truth.
Yeah.
We still have things in the works that we want to collaborate on. So stay posted for that.
Yes.
This one I think will happen.
Why are we not famous yet? She gave me this last week.
Oh boy.
Oh, how are we not famous yet?
Yeah. Working on it. But yeah, speaking is something we're passionate about. Eventually authoring something.
I got a secret for you. Sorry, audience. I'm not ready to share it yet, but
the benefits of being a bestie.
You want the insider scoop? You got to become a Patreon. Just kidding. But no, that is very cool. So yes, both into speaking, both wanting to write, and it feels so cool to be on that similar journey. And truly, like, you will find your people, because who knew that our paths would cross and intersect in this way 8 years later. Pretty cool.
It's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So lucky.
Stay tuned for more Brittany, because she'll be back.
Yay.
She's Brittany, bitch.
Thank you for having me.
I had to throw that in there once. We've got to get
100%
Brittany music, but
we'll have that kicking off the next episode.
Yes. We didn't throw out any of our hilarious chat GPT prompts of what not to do to support a woman.
Doing a whole episode on that. We'll save it for next time.
I do like this one where it says, don't pull up a Bible, a tarot card deck, sage. This one added in a protein shake. She doesn't need a spiritual obstacle course. She needs a nap and one non-judgy hug. Oh, I'm bringing all those things.
I was going to say, how many of those things have we crossed the line on with?
I mean, I literally have all of them.
Crystal, sage, protein shakes.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's some.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. This one. Do not go full therapist unless you are a therapist. This reminds me of an attachment wound from childhood. What does that sound like? She just needs someone to pass the tissue, and not dramatically.
Shoot. Did we not just talk about that?
We did. There were some good ones on here, but
next time.
Next time. On next week.
We'll be ready for you.
Next week will be the announcement episode that I have been teasing. And
it will happen.
It will happen.
It's happening.
It will happen. And again, thank you for supporting me on that as well, because that's also been a huge, like, whoo. I feel like I'm getting ready to have
I'm so excited for you.
My
and
third
the team.
baby here. Like, life's gonna change here.
It's
in a big way.
But it should be.
Yeah. But in a very exciting way. So stay tuned for next week, because we have some awesome announcements and some maybe cool giveaways and things too. But we will absolutely have you back, and this was fun. Thanks for hopping over with me on
having me, friends.
So
best way to spend it.
Okay. Well, last little tidbit as a parting word, advice, or
Tami.
I did totally put you on the spot. But.
Oh, that's okay. I guess my parting words are, and this has been my new baby that I'm working on, is that life is messy. Everything's messy. But the best we can do for ourselves is learn to love our mess. So there you have it. Learn our mess.
To love your mess. And honestly, from an inner child perspective, that's all your inner child wants to. It's just love me. Love what we're going through. Love our story.
Right.
Love your
mess.
Embrace it. Awesome. On that note, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, Brittany, for joining me last minute. We'll see you next week.